Welcome back. Well, talking about INEC guidelines, so much being said about it. The guidelines are finally out. They've been released by INEC after, they say, several consultations. Well, to weigh in on that, we've got Chief Dan Iwanya, who is the chairman of Zenith Labour Party. Good morning, and thank you for joining us today on the program. Well, I know that chairmen of political parties had some meetings with INEC. Some of them raised observations. We had CUPP rejecting those guidelines, saying some alterations, adjustments needed to have been made. But having seen the new guidelines released by INEC, what's your impression of it?
Thank you, Chamberlain. Happy New Year, Nigerians. I want to start by saying that in an election year, we have situations like this. I may not go into details in discussing the guidelines because the matter is in court. But there are certain issues that I must have to point out. Let me just take two of the issues. One has to do with the accreditation and voting. In the past, we have always done accreditation before voting. And we discovered that we don't stop voting till about 4, 5, 6, depending on the area and the number of registered voters in a particular polling unit. But something was tried in few elections in the past, recent past. I think starting with Bayelsa or some of those states. And we discovered that by 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, polls have stopped. People have stopped voting. And it appeared to the political parties then that that was a very credible option. And in fact, the political parties commended INEC at that time that accreditation and voting saves time. That is good. What is the apprehension? What is the perception of the opposition political parties? They are feeling that if you don't announce the number of accredited voters before voting, there is the possibility of tilting the number of accredited voters and also tilting the election. Well, head or tail. But I'm comforted with the fact that all the political parties that has put up candidates for election will have their agents at the polling unit. When you have your agents at the polling unit, you are watching from a very close distance what is happening between the essential materials and the officers presiding over the election. It saves time. I do not want us to push to the fact that we will be voting till 6 p.m. It is at those wee hours, it was those hours that people change ballot boxes, people change other things. Don't forget, we have tested this. It's not everything that is coming from INEC we have to condemn. I am of the view that that system of accreditation and voting can be taken. But after voting, if you want to stay, stay there. The agents of the political parties are at the polling unit. Now, let me go to the other issue I disagree vehemently. And that has to do with if after being recognized by the card reader and your name is not in the register, and they are satisfied that you are the owner, the presiding officer is satisfied that you are the owner of the voter's card, permanent voter's card, that you should be allowed to vote. In the name of God, this is wrong, and it cannot be accepted. Supreme Court has held severally that the basis of any election, is the voters' register. That is germane to who votes and who will not vote. So that aspect must be expunged. If we must find a way of accommodating those who have been recognized by card readers, their name is not in register. And that explains why this register, the law provides that the voters' register must be published before certain days before election, so that you can go there and identify your names. We cannot and we should not allow those whose names are not in the voters' register to vote. It will be wrong. It will render the election result of the election nugatory. It is never, Supreme Court has decided it. It is the register. It is not the accreditation. It is the register of voters that determines who should vote and who should not vote. That is my take. I don't want to go into other issues because the matter is important as a lawyer.
Let me read this to you, part of the guidelines. I want to read the entire text and see if we could put some of what you've said in this context and see if we can make sense out of it. It says, the use of tendered ballot has been provided consistent with the provisions of Section 60 of the Electoral Act 2010 as amended. This is in accordance with Section 19 of the Regulations and Guidelines of 2019. And it says, quote, if a person claiming to be entitled to vote applies for a ballot paper after another person has voted in the name given by the claimant, he or she shall, upon satisfactory answers given to any questions put to him or her by the APO2, as a polling officer, shall be entitled to receive a ballot paper in the same manner as any other voter, but the ballot paper shall be a tendered ballot paper and deposited in the tendered ballot envelope in accordance with the procedure in the Electoral Act. So does this in any way assuage your anger?
Yeah, what you are saying is that two persons can vote on one name in the register. After presentation of the ballot paper, and the person is allowed to vote under this standard ballot paper, won't the votes be counted? What we are saying, irrespective of the provisions in any other law, including the Electoral Act, the issue of what you find in the Constitution is sacrosanct. We cannot introduce new laws or new guidelines that will appear to negate the position of the Supreme Court and the position of the Constitution as to the validity and the genuinity of the voters' register. Everything you are doing in an election hinges on the voters' register without more. It cannot be abridged. It cannot be pushed anywhere. We have tested this thing. It has gone to Supreme Court. Supreme Court has said the voters' register is key to the right of every voter to vote or not to vote. If your name is not in the register, you cannot vote. Two persons cannot vote under the same name, no matter the regulations, no matter the guidelines.